Where are you? What's your?
Look at Bruce.
Oh, Karen. Well,
Yeah,
Kathryn.
You know, just imagine you're in the store, you know, and you're in one of those chairs and you're shoulder to shoulder with your neighbor, you know, and just feel the cozy love.
How?
I have to silence everyone.
Up there. You know what I'm
When
gonna
we-
do now?
When we get started, I'm going to ask everybody to mute themselves,
Get my back on
or I
here.
will
Yeah,
have you
nice.
mute everybody.
If there's anybody we know.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, please put in the chat where you're calling in from, so so we can see how far we're reaching. We have someone from Massachusetts so far, North Carolina.
Washington, D.C.,
Wow.
my nephew, Barron, hello.
Put it on here.
Okay. And Reverend Kimberly's in Massachusetts, too.
We could go up on.
Excellent.
But they're getting a good crowd.
No.
Right, good as a
Yeah.
person.
There's just, well, come here. Come over here.
Karen, somebody.
Hey, Megan.
What do you say, Marianne?
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Megan.
Hey, Megan and Scott, welcome.
Nobody can see me, but don't tilt it up.
Well,
Doug on
get one.
There's Kimberly.
Sorry, I just need to do that.
Hi, Julie. That's kind of.
Yeah, he's Who's
Who's Ken? David Bouchier.
No, this
Sue
one.
and Paul are there.
Okay,
Thank
Bouchier's
you.
famous.
You represented.
Yvonne, hello to you.
Trust, see?
Oh, no, they really still have to say hello.
I don't think
Come over here.
No, it's all right.
Come on, if you.
Carl here from the Pequod.
Hi,
Corin.
Hi, Charmy.
Yes, hi.
Oh, and we have
And
some
Jan
little,
and Bruce.
little Rhode
Hi.
Island here. Oh my gosh.
These people keep coming up.
The Northeast is finally represented.
And
Wow.
Kathryn and Maryann.
Moby Dick
Hi.
territory. Wonderful.
Hi, Sharmila.
Hi.
I'm still waiting for your book, but it'll be
That's
here
okay.
soon.
We don't have to wait. It's
Hi,
okay.
Laura.
But thank you anyway.
Right, great.
It's
So,
okay.
Marianne, you want to start?
Yeah.
I'm raising a toast. Yeah. Someone have a question before we start?
Kathryn, can you hear me? This
I
is
can.
Steve. This is Stephen.
David Bouchier.
Hi, Stephen.
Our
Yes, we
name
can
is on
hear
this
you.
one.
My camera isn't working, which you're lucky. I'm on the coast of Maine, 10 miles from Canada.
Excellent.
so far
Thank you.
Awesome.
You win the prize for being the farthest
Are you
participant.
sure about that? I'm in Washington State.
Does it say
Oh, you get the prize.
Very cool.
It says Mary Norris.
All right, I'm
Let's
going to
be a
mute
little bit.
everybody right now.
If she's
That's
smart,
okay.
if she's smart, they go through all of them. Check out who's
Okay.
there.
So, Marianne, why don't you get us started?
Okay, so here I am at 290 Main Street. I'm lifting a glass of ouzo and water. Compliments of Mary Norris, one of our speakers this evening. We're so happy to join together this evening. We're thinking of it as a kind of an early Thanksgiving gathering among friends and family and customers and supporters. We hope to be together, soon, sometime next year. But for now, we're happy to see your faces. And we have a lovely lineup of speakers, people sharing memories and stories about the bookshop. And we continue to invite you to send in short anecdotes about a particular favorite memory that you've had in and around the bookshop. So a special shout out. So many people have helped get the bookshop to where it is today, 40 years on from Canio's beginning to Kathryn and my assuming the role here. We have a fantastic staff. Many people have helped us over the years, and several of our staff members are here. So thanks. I think I see William and other friends who may be joining shortly. And of course, Canio is our not only founding member, but our key staff member as well. So listen, folks, please enjoy yourselves. This is informal. Come and go as you please. grab a snack, grab a cocktail. But I'm raising this glass to all of you in thanks, and we look forward to seeing you soon in the shop. And cheers, onward with the show.
Yay.
Woo!
Pace yourself on that.
Oh, yes.
So listen, I just want to echo what Maryann said and to say it's been really an honor to be at the bookstore these many years. I want to give a shout out to kind of our staff member at large, Tony Ernst, who's recovering from a little bit of a fall, but Tony at East End Inc. and WPKN has been very faithful, recording so very many events at Canio's for the last decade and longer. This has certainly been the best education of my life. I've learned a lot about literature and life. And to get us started today, what we're going to do is ask Mary Norris to unmute herself and start us off. Mary, the great comma queen, the author of Greek to Me, the author of Between You and Me, Confessions of the Comma Queen. We're grateful that she's joining us here to help us celebration. We love her and love seeing her and hope to see her in person soon. Mary, please.
Well, thank you, Kathryn. Thank you, Maryann. Thank you, Canio. Happy 40th birthday. And it's so nice to see all of you. I'm going to read something, one of my favorite poems. This is by Konstantin Cavafy, translated into English by Edmund Keeley. Ithaca is the name of the poem. And I read it in English, lines of it from the Greek, from the beginning and from the end, because I believe that once you know what the poem means, you'll understand it even in Greek. Okay. Ithaca. As you set out for Ithaca, hope the journey may be long, full of adventure, full of discovery, Lastrygonians, Cyclops, angry Poseidon. Don't be afraid of them. You'll never find things like that on your way, as long as you keep your thoughts raised high, as long as a rare excitement stirs your spirit and your body. Lastrygonians, Cyclops, wild Poseidon. You won't encounter them unless you bring them along inside your soul, unless your soul sets them up in front of you. Hope the journey may be long. May there be many a summer morning when with what pleasure, what joy you enter harbors you're seeing for the first time. May you stop at Phoenician trading stations to buy fine things, mother of pearl and coral, amber and ebony, sensual perfume of every kind, as many sensual perfumes as you can. And may you visit many Egyptian cities to learn and go on learning from their scholars. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you're destined for. But don't hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years, so you're old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you've gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you the marvelous journey. Without her, you wouldn't have set out. She has nothing left to give you. And if you find her poor, Ithaca won't have fooled you. Wise as you will have become, so full of experience, you'll have understood by then what these Ithacas mean. And this is the volume of Cavafy that I'm going to read. And actually, I printed it out by hand, thinking that this might help master these few lines. And I did not consult modern Greek, but I'm just going to wing this. Ithaki. Savgis ston piemo yatin Ithaki. Naefkese nane makris o dromos, yematos peripeties, yematos gnosis, tus lastrigonas, que tus kyklopos, ton thymomeno Poseidona ni φοβάσαι. Τέτοια στον δρόμο σου ποτέ σου δεν θα βρεις, αν μεν η σκέψη σου υψηλή, αν εκλεκτή, συγκίνησης το πνεύμα και το σώμα σου αγγίζει. Πάντα στον νου σου να έχεις την Ιθάκη, κι αν πτωτική την βρεις, η Ιθάκη δεν σε έλασε. Έτσι σοφός που έγινες με τόση πείρα, ήδη θα το κατάλαβες, οι Ιθάκες τι σημαίνουν. Ευχαριστώ. Γεια μας.
Thank you, Mary.
That's Greek to me. That was beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for indulging me. I love getting to read that poem.
Oh, that's extraordinary, extraordinary. Certainly the bookstore has been our Ithaca, so we really, really appreciate that. It's been wonderful. Kathryn?
Yes, and we're trying not to hurry the journey either. But wait, what do I see? A vast in the distance. I see something. It may be a screen share coming at us because we have a special message from a certain writer. Can everybody see?
Yeah.
Take it away, Colson Whitehead.
Well, happy birthday, Canios. Congrats to Maryann and Kathryn for keeping this beautiful concern going all these years. It's a little sad if Canios is 40 years old, because if Canios is 40, I'm like an old ass mofo. So I've been going there since I was a teenager. My first visit, still rippling throughout the years. I walked in, I got 3 variety of items. I got a copy of James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time, the cool 60s paperback. A volume of essays about Nathaniel West. I just read David Locust. I wanted to know where he was coming from. And finally, this book, New York on $5 a Day, 1964 version. And you know why I got it? I just thought I would use it one day. And I took the books to the register, and Canio was there. And I looked at the 3 copies and said, "Oh, you must be a writer." And I was like, "What?" Because it was embarrassing to have that kind of secret ambition. So I didn't really see it in myself, but Canio did. And I'm still using New York on $5 a Day to this moment, and 2 novels, and I'm sure I'll use it again. So once again, yeah, with gratitude and love, happy birthday, Canios. Many more. Stay safe, and I'd love to do an event on the other side, maybe next summer. Take care.
All right, thanks, Colson. That's awesome to have Colson drop in on us like that.
I want to remind everyone, we do have copies of the books of all our wonderful guests available, you know where, here. Some signed copies included, all right? So see you on that one.
Yeah, Colson's read many times at the bookstore, and I think with that anniversary celebration, we need to now pivot to Canio to take it away and talk a little bit about his years here, or whatever reflection he would like to. Canio, please. Okay, Canio, you're muted. We're gonna have to unmute you.
Got it. Bingo.
Okay.
Perfetto.
So you hear me and you see me?
Prego.
Oh, well, I'm really happy to be with you all for this 40th anniversary. And it's like best wishes to Maryann and Kathryn for the anniversary, and also to all of the community, all of you people out there. It's so wonderful to see faces that I've seen over the years. It's this wonderful community that really, I think, made possible the longevity of this bookshop. When I think that I came in 1980 and opened up this little bookshop, which I thought was going to just be a hobby for me. I was a school teacher, and this would be weekends, and whenever the school was closed, holidays and summers. And so it was very low key. For over a year, I had no telephone. There was no credit card machine. There was no air conditioning. But people just came in. I really felt embraced by the community. I didn't know anybody. And it was wonderful to see the response. I started organizing some readings, and the response was wonderful. So much so that after a couple of years, there was the East End Poetry organization got together and they raised some money for a PA system so that they could be heard better. Anyway, it was great being here, and I just should say that Nora, my wife, and I kind of indulged in this passion for books for almost 20 years. And in 1999, we decided we wanted to go live in Italy, something we always wanted to do, and it was kind of a now or never time. And of course, what about the bookshop? That was kind of going to be the end. But it was just kind of providential, I guess. Providential that Maryann and Kathryn should just come into the shop and kind of talk about taking over the bookshop, and they did, and they really they brought the bookshop into the 21st century, literally, and they with their expertise and their of books and their passion, they just kept it going and brought it to new levels with their they created the Canio's Cultural Cafe, which was wonderful, brought in more community involvement, and they brought the technology, like this is wonderful Zoom that we could all see. They have now a website. So, and yet it still looks like, for me, when I go into the shop, it still looks like the way I left it, but it secretly isn't. It's full of Maryann and Kathryn now. And so Maryann and Kathryn, I salute you and the whole community. Good to see all of those wonderful faces again. Bruce, one of my first participants when he played with his band within this first or second year, and see Karen again, and Megan and Scott when they came in, and they were still just kind of dating, I guess, before the big moment. Anyway, good to see all of you. I salute you all. Another 40 years. Salute.
Grazie, Canio.
Thank you, Canio.
We do now have air conditioning. Another advancement in the bookshop.
Yeah, and we have heat instead of the open fire pit in the back. So we really entered the 20th century in a big way. But
Canio might be too modest to mention. I just want to briefly acknowledge, a beautiful series of poetry books that Canio published under the Canio's Editions imprint, promoting and celebrating East End poets. So that's been a great contribution to the literature of the East End. So that needed to be mentioned.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Many reasons to celebrate Canio, really a master of all trades, and we're ever grateful for your vision to open the store in 1980 when Sag Harbor was literally not even a dot on the map, and you brought the literary community to Sag Harbor. So listen, we're going to pivot a little bit right now to Reverend Kimberly Johnson, if Kimberly's still on, because I know she has another Zoom to go to. Reverend Kimberly is the minister of the Unitarian Universalist and a very strong community activist on multiple levels, both locally and nationally. So I hope, Kimberly, that you're still here, and if you are, take it away.
I am still here, and I'm sorry that I'm going to have to run. Hopefully I can make it back. But I really just wanted to be a part of this. I think probably there's nothing more important to a community than a community bookstore. I've been on the East End for about 5 years, and Canio's was one of the first places that I connected with. We try to partner as many times, as often as we can. I'm going to read a little piece from The Color Purple. It was the very first of many things that I have read or done with Canio's. And I like it because it's an opportunity to read great literature in a secular forum, but that talks about God in a way that makes sense to me and probably to a lot of people in my congregation. And so I'm cutting big chunks of it out for time, but if you want to go back and read, I'm going to be reading from page 192 in The Color Purple through the end of that chapter. You probably are going to want to go back and read it for yourself. So this is from Seeley. Dear Nettie, I don't write to God no more. I write to you. What happened to God? Asked Shug. Who that? I say. She look at me serious. Big a devil as you is, I say. You not worried about no God, surely. She say, wait a minute. Hold on just a minute here. Just because I don't harass it, like some people us know, don't mean I ain't got no religion. What God do for me? I asked. She say, Seeley, like she shocked. He gave you life, good health, and a good woman that love you to death. Yeah, I say. And he give me a lynch daddy, a crazy mama, a low-down dog of a steppa, and a sister I probably won't ever see again. Anyhow, I say, the God I've been praying to and writing to is a man, and act just like all the other men's I know, trifling, forgetful, and low down. She say, Miss Seeley, you better hush. God might hear you. Let him hear me, I say. If he ever listened to poor colored women, the world would be a different place, I can tell you. She talk and talk, trying to budge me away from my blasphemy, but I blaspheme as much as I want to. Here's the thing, say Shug, the thing I believe. God is inside you and inside everybody else. You come into this world with God, but only them that search for it inside find it. And sometimes it just manifests itself, even if you're not looking or don't know what you're looking for. Trouble do it for most folk. I think sorrow. It? I asked. Yeah, it. God ain't a he or a she, but a it. But what do it look like? I asked. Don't look like nothing, she say. It ain't a picture show. It ain't something you can look at apart from anything else, including yourself. I believe God is everything, say Shug. Everything that is or ever was or ever will be. And when you can feel that and be happy to feel that, you found it. Shug, a beautiful thing. Let me tell you. She frowned a little, look out across the yard, lean back in her chair like a big rose. She say, my first step away from the old white man was trees, the air, then birds, then other people. But one day, I was sitting quiet and feeling like a motherless child, which I was. It come to me, that feeling of being a part of everything, not separate at all. And I knew that if I cut a tree, my arm would bleed. Listen, she say, God love everything you love and a mess of stuff you don't. But more than anything, God love admiration. You saying God vain? I asked. Nah, she say, not vain. Just wanting to share a good thing. I think it pisses God off if you walk by the color purple in a field somewhere and don't notice it. What it do when it pissed off? I asked. Oh, it makes something else. People think pleasing God is all God care about, but any fool living in this world can see it always trying to please us back. Yeah, I say. Yeah, she say. It always making little surprises and springing them on us when we least expect it. You mean it want to be loved, just like the Bible say? Yes, Celie, she say. Everything want to be loved. Us sing and dance, make faces, and give flower bouquets, trying to be loved. So, there you go.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful passage.
That was great. Beautiful. Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you. And I just want to let folks know, if they don't, Reverend Kimberly, Maryann, and other organizations in the area have worked for many years on racial justice East End. We have had very stimulating book discussions and film discussions, and we will be continuing, so stay tuned for that.
And if anyone's not aware, the Unitarian Universalist congregation is just 2 miles south of the bookshop, right on the turnpike here. So Sunday morning service.
Live on Zoom. Check our website.
Live on
Zoom. 11 a.m., I think. Is that, no, 10:30.
10:30.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Reverend Kimberly.
Thanks for taking the time.
Hopefully I can make it back before the end. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Okay. Come back, please.
This is Stephen. I have to go.
Okay.
I've got the car pointed towards Canada. It's only 12 miles away, just in case.
Okay.
And here comes Canio. Canio, te amo.
Thanks for joining us, Stephen.
Ciao,
Thanks,
amico.
Stephen.
So
Buon viaggio.
Yes, travel safe, travel safe. So speaking of travels, another world-renowned and close at home friend that we've traveled many journeys with is the ecologist Carl Safina, who has participated in a number of our Moby Dick marathons and also given numerous readings at the store. We're thrilled that he's joining us. And Carl, would you please take it away?
Okay, well, what a pleasure to be here with everybody. I don't think turning 40 is such a big deal. I wish I was turning 40 today.
Yeah, right. Good
So,
point.
Maryann had just held up the cover of my most recent book called Becoming Wild, which is about culture in animals other than humans. And one of the creatures that I focus on is a very cultural creature, the sperm whale. So in writing about sperm whales and sperm whale culture and their families and all the things that they do in the ocean and being with them in the ocean in the Caribbean, I wrote a lot. And you know, you can't really write about sperm whales and avoid Moby Dick. Moby Dick is a book that is based on a quest for a particular sperm whale. But in the course of checking a few passages here and there and incorporating a little bit of that into the book, I incorporated a lot of it into the manuscript, and a lot of that had to come out because it was too much and it wasn't quite on the point of the culture of the whales themselves. So I kept it in a separate file, and what was really striking about it was how relevant to today and to many of the struggles, problems, quite frankly, we have today. A lot of Moby Dick seemed to me, a lot of the actual writing of Melville So I put it together in a separate article, and that article was published in the New York Times Book Review, and I'm going to read it for you right now. And the article is called "Melville's Whale Was a Warning We Failed to Heed." In 1841, while aboard the whaler Acushnet, Herman Melville met William Chase among another ship's complement. William lent Melville a book by his father, Owen Chase, which was called Narrative of the Most Extraordinary and Distressing Shipwreck of the Whale Ship Essex. Melville had read Jeremiah Reynolds' violent account of a sperm whale that was white as wool, named for his haunt near Mocha Island off the coast of Chile, Mocha Dick. It's unknown what led Melville to tweak Mocha to Moby, but it's a good thing he did, and that Starbuck was the name he gave his first mate rather than his captain. Otherwise, the novel would follow a Starbucks obsession with a Mocha. Owen Chase gave Melville his climax. As Essex's boats were harpooning female sperm whales, a huge male, around 85 feet, rushed and holed the 88-foot ship twice. No whale had ever sunk a ship. And Melville wrote, "The reading of this wondrous story upon the landless sea, and so close to the very latitude of the shipwreck, had a surprising effect on me." Melville initially planned a book about whales and whaling. Reynolds helped supply Melville with a more Stygian idea by exhorting his men to attack Mocha Dick, quote, as though he were Beelzebub himself, a demon rather than a whale. Yet Moby Dick is neither whale nor demon, but a white prop contrasting with the demonic Captain Ahab, the tormented tormentor, the malignant, abused abuser of authority and of men. Ahab's bias is personal and color-based. A white whale becomes a blank pincushion for Ahab's thrusting mania as Melville shades pages with his madness. Yet, and this was absolutely astonishing for its time, Moby Dick becomes the ultimate asserter of reason. In self-defense, the whale delivers justice and never dies. Ahab vowed to chase Moby Dick over all sides of earth, but he can't do it alone. So he flatters his men into allegiance to his maniacal quest. "What say ye, men? I think ye do look brave." The harpooners shout, "Aye!" Ahab is impeccably skillful at manipulating people into abetting him, at making his self-destructive obsessions their own. Ahab isn't merely symptomatic. Through his ability to steer men into complicity and their inability to see it, he becomes contagious, truly dangerous. Moby Dick is called a great American novel. Perhaps it's the first great global novel. Melville broke through American myopia, vanishing over many horizons, rubbing shoulders with apostates, seeing civility in savages and savagery in the civilized, and ruinous obedience to mad tyrants. Melville's years on ships sowed what his biographer Newton Arvin called, quote, a settled hatred of external authority. By the 1940s, having ventured half a world away from America, Melville cast a frigate bird-like perspective on the American character's deepest congenital malignancy, then called negrophobia. In the early 19th century, sperm whale hunting was never far from slave trading. Thomas Beale's 1839 Natural History of the Sperm Whale, a book, included this telling dedication to the British ship owner Thomas Sturge. The dedication read, quote, "Your character may be estimated by the incessant efforts you have made to liberate the Negro from the condition of the slave." On docks and decks, humans of varied skin shades breathing one another's sweat in close company, tended whale-boiling cauldrons, and looked one another in the eye. Light-skinned men could feel trapped, and dark men could taste freedom, surviving, sometimes drowning, together. Melville's ever-philosophical narrator, Ishmael, asks, "Who ain't a slave? Tell me that." From a world he experienced as spherical from atop ship's masts, Melville perceived a sea-level humanity, embracing and celebrating the latitudes and longitudes of human variation that we now term diversity. When Ishmael finds himself compelled to share a blanket at the sold-out Spouter Inn, he declares, no man prefers to sleep two in a bed, but he settles in, waiting for his mysterious South Seas roommate, who, he's been informed, is peddling a shrunken head on the streets of New Bedford. Queequeg's appearance terrifies Ishmael mute, but after things equilibrate, Ishmael reconsiders. For all his tattooings, he was on the whole a clean, comely-looking cannibal, a human being just as I am. Better sleep with a sober cannibal than a drunken Christian. In the morning, Ishmael wakes to find Queequeg's arm, quote, thrown over me in the most loving and affectionate manner. You had almost thought I had been his wife. Now, there's no panic. Eventually, Queequeg rouses and by signs and sounds makes Ishmael understand that he'll dress and leave. Quote, the truth is, these savages have an innate sense of delicacy, Ishmael editorializes. It is marvelous how essentially polite they are, so much civility and consideration, while I was guilty of great rudeness. Reflecting on Queequeg's tatted visage, he concludes, savage though he was and hideously marred about the face, at least to my taste, his countenance yet had something in it which was by no means disagreeable. You cannot hide the soul. Queequeg was George Washington, cannibalistically developed. Mates now for life, they find a ship, but Queequeg is barred. He's not Christian. Ishmael fast talks. Queequeg, like, quote, all of us and every mother's son and soul of us, belongs to the great and everlasting first congregation of this whole worshiping world. In that we all join hands. Impressed by Ishmael's impromptu sermon, the recruiter allows their marks. They'll board the Pequod, a ship Melville has named, he reminds us, for a famed tribe of Massachusetts natives that he says were already extinct. Nearly 2 centuries ago, Melville showed us how easy it is to welcome as our own the touches of others, their equivalent colors, customs, and beliefs, their journeys, their transitions, and to remember those who, unwelcomed, suffered. How much could have been avoided and embraced had we heeded Melville's warnings? Melville feverishly scribbled a diagnosis, prognosis, and prescription for the human condition. We are all Ishmael, the ingenue, and Starbuck the pragmatist, and Ahab the maniac, stuck on a ship driven by winds we cannot predict, helmed by a mind not fully comprehensible, whose compulsions we don't control. The world is an elusive whale. We might choose coexistence or destruction, and though we do not decide the outcome, the hands on those oars are ours, and each stroke invites consequences. And lest we overlook the obvious, the men went equipped to do harm in their quest for oil. If we're all Ishmael and Starbuck and Ahab caught in our collective addiction, the whales exemplify a counterculture, a way of living weightlessly, of not draining the world that floats them. It's no coincidence that Leviathan, the sperm whale, is Melville's chosen vehicle. No other candidate qualifies. Ahab could have chased a fire-breathing dragon, but to face real quotidian madness, we must have at stake real blood and real will on both sides. Only this creature, the largest with teeth on the planet, comes to us as quickened flesh and immortal metaphor, tangling us with our own pursuits, profane, bleeding, sacred, free. Only Leviathan could do it, could win. So one wonders about those who've turned the book aside, as in college I did. How does one fare, having failed to be forewarned about our inner Ahabs or the risks of being led into complicity with madness, uncounseled on the wisdom of rejecting the obsessive quests that the world's pulpits condone and its ports reward? Moby Dick is only partly about madness. It's equally about banality. Herman Melville's haunting inquiry, whether Leviathan can long endure so wide a chase and so remorseless a havoc, returns to me again, while every whale in every ocean returns to share our air in seas we are warming and thickening with plastic. Melville wrote, if ever the world is again to be flooded like the Netherlands to kill off its rats, then the eternal whale will still survive and spout his froth defiance to the skies. But the warming that will erode the contours of Florida and New York, Houston, Hong Kong, and Bangladesh will make life difficult for whales too. They and all beings, as the naturalist Henry Beston wrote, are caught with ourselves in the net of life and time, fellow prisoners of the splendor and travail of the earth. Mesh by knotted mesh, it's a net we have woven perversely by unweaving the web of life. Melville tried to warn us. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
That's great.
Great, Carl.
Thank you, thank you.
So important, the way you weave in contemporary situations and events into this great work. We really appreciate your being with us tonight, and we admire all the work you do at the Safina Center. We had the pleasure to be part of a recent gala celebration for the Safina Center. Got to meet excellent fellows working all around the world doing really important work. And we salute you for that, and thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Maryann. That's really kind. I appreciate it. And it's great to be here with everybody.
An understatement, an understatement. Kathryn.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Maryann said. Carl, you have been such a supporter of ours over the years, and the work that you do at the Safina Center, truly makes the whole world a better place. Really impressed, especially with the young group that you're fostering there. Obviously, the youth are what will, the youth will lead us forward. So thank you for that. And for everybody to know, even though we're locked down and we're locked into our rectangular boxes tonight, come summertime, Moby Dick Marathon 2021 is going to be coming at you, and we're going to be in person, okay? So everybody, get ready, start reading the book, and get your outfits all thought through. So we thought we might pivot at this point to ask someone who did contribute a short story to allow me to read it, or perhaps they want to read it. He wants to read it himself because he is on the call, and it has to do with Carl Safina. And I'm referencing Ken Dorff. Ken, if you are with us, do you recall your story? Would you like to read it, or would you like me to?
Kathryn, go ahead, because I don't have it in front of me, but you can read what I said. Thanks.
Okay, great. Yeah. And as Maryann mentioned, we're continuing to collect stories throughout the whole year, and we will make them all available in bits and pieces throughout, and as a collected perhaps towards the summertime. So from Ken Dorff, in his words, I am biking home from the village. I decide to stop off and pick up a book I've been wanting to read, Beyond Words, What Animals Think and Feel by Carl Safina. I look at a few of the books in the stands at the entrance, then pick up Beyond Words and head to the checkout. I am still wearing my bike helmet. As I pay, a gentleman comes up behind me, waiting his turn. Maryann asks if I would like an autographed copy of the book. I say, sure, why not? She says, well, that's easy. Carl Safina is standing behind you. Carl graciously signs the book, and I am pleased as punch. Only at Canio's can the apparition of the author magically appear, as if with Aladdin's lamp, simply by buying their book. A wonderful Canio's moment. Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Carl.
So I challenge the next customer to come in and ask for Moby Dick and ask for a signed copy, okay?
I'm coming in and asking for Walden.
Okay.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
All right. So now let us go to
Thanks, Ken.
two wonderful community members, naturalists, poets, spiritualists, the wonderful couple, Scott and Megan Chaskey.
We're here.
We love you. Thank you.
We love you too. Oh my gosh, there's so many things to talk about when it comes to Canio's, but part of it is the magic of it, right? And that's what poetry is. And I've experienced it. We've all experienced it there at Canio's for so many years. So Mary started off reading that wonderful poem by Kafafi, which is actually one of my favorites too. And I share a birthday with Kafafi. That's a nice thing to begin with, but also my family moved around quite a bit, but eventually settled in Ithaca, of course.
Cool.
And my first little chapbook of poems that I put together was entitled Ithaca Home. So thank you, Mary, for reading that. And I certainly wasn't expecting that the evening would start with that, but really, really beautiful. Another connection immediately is that Megan just reached over. We're sitting here in our living room. And so there's Carl, of course, talking about Moby Dick. And this beautiful copy of Moby Dick was just right there on our bookshelf. And given to us by my teacher, Milton Kessler, who bought this in Canio's. He actually came and gave a reading. He came and gave this is a really beautiful copy of Moby Dick. And Milt came to give a reading, and I introduced him. So he was my teacher in college. And we had a friendship for 35 years or, forever. We're still connected with his family. And it was such a privilege to introduce him. And it happened there at Canio's. So I want to tell a story about Moby Dick. Megan wants to tell a story about Moby Dick.
Talk about magical. So I didn't put Moby Dick aside. When I somehow got a hold of it. I was born in New Mexico, nowhere near the ocean. And in high school, I guess, I was reading Moby Dick. I loved it. I kind of passed some of the philosophical parts, but, and I don't know if any of you have ever done this, but I wrote a letter to myself. And dated on the back, I wrote, do not open until such and such a date. So I think it was maybe 5 years I dated this letter to myself to not open for. And when Scott and I met each other in England, then we came back and we helped my mother move from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, out here to the East End. And as we were packing up everything in Pennsylvania, well, there's a whole other story to that, but I found this letter that I had written to myself, and I saw the date on it. It had just passed a little while ago, so I felt like I could open it. And in it, I said, I am reading Moby Dick. Well, what was I reading in college but Moby Dick? I had a class in which we read Moby Dick, and that was pretty magical, that I had decided to write to my future self who was reading Moby Dick at the same time. And that brings the memory back from college when I was in that class and we were given the assignment to read, how many chapters for the next class. And my teacher had gotten a little annoyed because it didn't seem like anyone had done the homework in our class and read the pages we were supposed to read. So she looked around and she was like, Megan's the one. She does the homework. I'm going to ask her something. She goes, what was Queequeg's mark? Carl Safina just mentioned that. Their marks to get on the ship, they had to put their signature. And I was like, oh no, I can't remember. And then it came to me, it was an X because he couldn't write. So he just put an X. So there we have it. Moby Dick we're all in Moby Dick here in Sag Harbor.
So a couple weeks ago, Kathryn and Maryann were away, and I went into Canio's, and there was Canio, and it was such a wonderful meeting, a wonderful connection, and Canio said, I remember when you and Megan first came in to Canio's, and I don't think you were married yet. He referred to this. Well, we were married in 1982, 38 years ago. So this puts us back to 1981, perhaps, something like that. Not long after that, we had moved Connie Fox, whose painting is right behind us, as a matter of fact, there. And Connie, another connection with the bookstore is that Connie was married to William King, and I wish we were reading at the podium. Bill made the podium at Canio's, right? He came in, I don't know what was there, but Bill said you need a podium. Also, what's the name of the figure that Bill? Ruby. So there was quite a family connection there with Canio's, and we skipped off to England for 10 years, and when we would come back to visit, Connie would talk to Canio and arrange a reading, and so such a long connection with the place. However, I am going to read another long connection. This is also a wonderful story. Do we have the rest of the night to talk, or should we have to? Anyhow, so here's a good one. So apparently Canio suggested to Kathryn and Maryann to post some photographs and see if anyone would recognize some of these early photographs. And the first one they posted, I looked instantly and I said, oh, that's Alan Plants and Rose Grobart. And I got it right. Anyhow, right before that, this poem written by Alan Plants had surfaced from a pile of papers in my study. So I'm going to read this poem by Alan Plants.
You have to show it. You have to show it.
You have to see this. Okay.
Typewritten.
This is from Alan. And those of you who did not know Alan, call me up. I'd love to talk to you about Alan. What a wonderful character. So the little note at the top of this page reads, poem by Alan Plants given to Rose on December 13th, 1981 at Canio's Books. So here's the poem for Rose Grobart. I have to tell you that I had a very long friendship with Alan, practicing Zen and looking for birds and talking about fishing in the sea, etc. But I also had one of the most unusual jobs I've ever had, which was personal secretary to Rose Grobart. So anyhow, here we go for Rose Grobart. That night, when Denise read her poem about Pasternak's spirit coming to her after his death in the form of a butterfly found in the subway steps, a beetle, a winged bug, the only insect flying in the room, flew across the stage and lit upon her manuscript. She honored it by reading another poem. The next night, after dinner with her at the Ignatos, a bug flew into my eye. I went into the house for light, and Rose told me how, at Stephen Mooney's death, a hummingbird visited her only once. Rose, you too dwell close to what in me is, well, conceit. Nobody died, I thought, and no spirit spooked by human will caused my eye to grieve. It was the stars overhead beginning to shine, the wind backing to the north, telling me of the sea, the next dawn, the friends of poetry in a summer night, talking low in porch light, and one bug seeking the gleam in my eye for its uncommon joy. There's Alan for you. Well, I was going to read one of my poems, but I'm going to turn it over here to Megan after Alan's.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for bringing Alan into the room.
That was fantastic. I'm going to read Valentine poem for Scott. And I would say to you, it seems as if the night shed all its darkness into a softness I pull into, with your warmth and the certain pressure of your breathing body, like the fragrance of woods, understated, in the live curl of the scent of the world, in its moments of becoming, underneath every moment of turning. 30 years feels to the mind like some great northern lake, the shores invisible from one side to the other, but felt, always felt, from the center, in the dimness of light and the essential sweep of sensation, especially with my way of remembering events of years that bends them into images of color and sound and abandons facts on the lake border. 30 years, calendars, messages on the kitchen table, of doing life as if we would ever get it done, of the congruent chores of mutual understanding that we've worked out as roommates of the soul chambers. And yet, 30 years is just waking up with you this morning and not rushing, feeling so sure that the tenderness is there, as much as the earth in her motion, and that we are each happy. Why should that simply not be all there is? The light of late morning, the fall of sheets around two body selves that know each other better than those selves within their own dimensions. Through childbearing and grieving and waking up whole again, with children growing into their own body selves like wild horses. Time came like a whisper I didn't fully understand, with words too soft or melded for others to hear, the way they were meant to be. And so I hear then the way I wash them into my mind's bay and meld them into a new form of my own. Honestly, love, the music of your heartbeat has taken all bitterness from the edges of things, so that the center, even where I trained the yearlings of my young self in your arms, fighting against the long reins and kicking against the discipline, holds true, simply true. I know now it is where I learned what it takes to wring out trust. Not a trust given like rain, but pulled from the soil of misgivings, word fractures, too quick for truth, through the windy seasons of 30 years. I cherish streaks of sun and moments of clearing, rinsed pools, open pathways, and the leaves coming out seemingly from nowhere, until it seemed that where the thorn stem had been my study, it changed to a flower, and falling or ripening, caught my heart and caught my full attention, and raised a flood tide in my blood, like the sound of the mill of the sea, in the distance on clear days before a storm, carried through the woods, where I stopped for a moment alone in intimacy with you, just by the thought of you. And now we come to the table together, with the flavor of sweet potato warm in our mouths at the end of the day, our thoughts threading through each other's, while out of the choice word and word, we build a sentence that's as long as 30 years would give to any field of buckwheat in sunlight. One secret I may not have told you, just as you always know the time to plant here in this eastern seaside climate, by your own sense of something in the wind or the feel of the air behind your thought. I always know that you are really loving me when you kiss me and your mouth tastes like strawberries.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
We have so many wonderful poets, and poetry has been so much at the heart of the bookstore, which Canio fostered from the very first days, and it's great, and I have great gratitude for that. Thank you both for your offerings and for bringing Alan into the room. Scott's also a teacher. He's taught some nature writing workshops at the bookstore. And so we're now going to go to another poet in our community and also a professor, Julie Sheehan, who is head of the English department at Stony Brook, is with us. And Julie, please take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this and bringing the community virtually together. And yeah, I've been thinking a lot for your 40th of my mentor and teacher, Marie Ponceau, because when I moved out here in 2001 with a new baby and no friends and a book on the way, so 2 babies, I guess, and found my way to Canio's almost immediately. It does have some sort of magical pull. And thought that's where I want to get Marie out here and do a reading, when my book is published. And she agreed because she was that kind of lady. It came out and we did a reading. And when I walked in and saw that all 12 chairs were actually full of people, I felt that I had arrived on the East End. And there was maybe even a 13th or 14th person who was standing. So, it was just magical. And, books, well, there was a story that Scott told about Moby Dick being passed on to him by his teacher. Books are what we sort of hand off to our students, and there are kind of currency for mentorship and teaching. And so I'll read a very short poem. Alan Plants once told me my lines are too long, but this one has short lines, so he would approve. A short poem that I wrote in tribute to Marie, because unlike most poets, she was probably just as famous for her teaching as for her poetry. And she has a lot of accolades who follow her method. She worked with a lot of kids who struggle for literacy, who have to fight to find their way to their voices in language. And that was something she really cared about and thought a lot about. And there are many people who have adopted her techniques that she forged with another wonderful lady named Rosemary B. Dean. Anyway, this is called Composition Class. Make it abstract, she'll say. Her students will tell her single motherhood is not abstract, is not a thought. Is it concrete? The smell of grit on spinach when tossing that crinkled pack of Ritz Bits toward a snack box in a rush? Here's a thesis. Single mothers make the best poets. Their senses thoroughly flush with failure. Single moms and William Blake do other than repeat the same dull round. Do other than repeat, put on your shoes. Do other than attend late and ill-fated recitals without their cameras, which abound in concrete fact elsewhere. Do other than lose. Read Ponceau, Wiley, Wollstonecraft, all the greats. And then I found this really delightful poem of hers, if you'll indulge me, I want to read. She wrote this little series of poems about a girl at various ages. So, you know, this girl at 6 years old, this girl at 9. The one I'm going to read is this girl at 13. And each poem is titled The Problem of, and it's whatever problem a 6-year-old has. At 13, it's The Problem of Fiction. She always writes poems. This summer, she's starting a novel. It's in trouble already. The characters are easy. A girl and her friend who is a girl, and the boy down the block with his first car, an older boy, 16, who sometimes these warm evenings leaves his house to go dancing in dressy clothes, though it's still light out. The girl has a brother who has lots of friends, is good in math, and just plain good, which doesn't help the story. The story should have rescues and escapes in it, which means who's the bad guy? He couldn't be the brother or the grandpa or the father either, or even the boy down the block with his first car. People in novels have to need something, she thinks, that takes about 200 pages to get. She can't imagine that. Nothing she needs can be got. If it could, she'd go get it. The answer to nightmares, a mother who'd be proud of her, doing things a mother could be proud of, having hips and knowing how to squeal at the beach, laughing when the boy down the block picked her up and carried her and threw her into the water. If she'd laughed, squealing, he might still take her swimming. And his mother wouldn't say she's crazy. She would not have got her teeth into his shoulder till, well, yes, she bit him. And the marks lasted and lasted. His mother said so, but that couldn't be a novel. She'll never squeal laughing. She'd never not bite him. She hates cute girls. She hates boys who like them. Biting is embarrassing and wrong, and she has no intention of doing it again. But she would if he did, if he dared. And there's no story if there's no hope of change. So thank you, Canios. Thank you, Kathryn and Maryann, teachers yourselves, and this wild community of people trading books. I love it, and I'm honored to be here.
Awesome, Julie. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Just brilliant.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Just shout out, not only is Julie a poet and a teacher, but she, along with Reverend Kimberly, does a lot of wonderful community activist work on the East End, and we work together on social justice issues, and Canios is a part, the hub of that activity to an extent. So Maryann, who do we have up on deck next?
We are going to invite our dear friend Doug Feiden to share a reflection, a piece that he wrote. One of the highlights of our being here at the bookshop is getting to meet so many wonderful writers, and even more to have a chance to get to know these writers and maybe even you know, become friends and go out to dinner on occasion. It's been a lovely experience in that way. And I'm thinking especially right now of our dear Lucette Lanyadoo, journalist, writer, late writer of two beautiful memoirs, The Man in the White Sharkskin Suit and The Arrogant Years. Beautiful memoirs telling the family story of Lucette's heritage, beginning in Cairo, coming through Europe and settling in the United States. So we were lucky enough to invite Lucette to read from her first memoir. And Doug, her husband, has written a beautiful remembrance of that experience and carries her work forward. So Doug, if you're up for it, we'd love you to read what you wrote about that evening. It was a very special and memorable night for all of us.
I would be honored, Maryann. Thank you for that kind introduction. And Kathryn and Canio, everything you've meant to Lucette and I personally and to this community for 40 years. I'll begin with a quote from the late Lucette Lanyadoo, if I may. I always knew 290 was a good luck number. She whispered those cryptic words in my ear moments before she rose from the Nelson Algren chair. That is, we all know, the centerpiece of Canio's. It was into which a place that she always settled into whenever she came into the shop. And this was to give her very first reading from The Man in the White Sharkskin Suit. It was July 21st, 2007. So, I always knew 290 was a good luck number, Lucette said. I had no idea, absolutely no idea what she was talking about. What I did know was that my wife was deeply superstitious, a legacy of her Egyptian Jewish heritage, magnified by the early years in exile, and informed by a lifetime in which she never quite shook the sense that she would remain forever the refugee. Lucette always believed there were good numbers and bad numbers, good places and bad places, good luck places and bad luck places. And as she saw it, Canio's was the ultimate good luck place. The evil eye, she once told me, could never find its way through those blue doors. It was here that Sharkskin was launched. It was in this creative incubator that the two proprietors helped foster it, championed it, and lovingly organized its rollout. Kathryn took Lucette's author's photo and a dozen other evocative pictures that went around the world. Maryann was enthusiastic, nurturing, and curious, often punctuating her enthusiasm with a colloquialism that was both foreign to Lucette and filled her with sheer delight. You go, girlfriend. And so on that magical summer's night, Canio's helped usher her memoir into the world. The audience was rapt. The hosts, as I recall, took on the aspect of proud parents. The author was spellbinding as she read about her father's fall from grace, immortalizing the boulevardier who played poker with a king, Farouk, led a posh's lifestyle in Cairo, only to be forced out of his homeland as a stateless limbo in Paris, and eventually impoverishment and near ruination in Brooklyn, where he sold ties of the streets and subways of New York. The questions, as is often the case at a Canio's reading, were smart and searching. Lucette's answers were funny and frank. There was even a flash of tension, perhaps healthy tension, as one woman innocently asked, Didn't Andre Assaman in Out of Egypt already write about this subject? Question. At first, Lucette was diplomatic. Andre, she explained, was from Alexandria, where she was from Cairo. He was secular. Well, hers was a religious background. Still, I knew she was about to boil over, and she did. Are you saying there should be only one book about the Jews of Egypt? Would anyone ever suggest there should be only one book about the Jews of Eastern Europe? And that no one else should write about the Jews of Warsaw because Isaac Bashevis Singer already did? That there's no need for more Holocaust books because Eli Wiesel already covered the subject? Her outrage now had become visceral. There were Jews in Egypt for thousands of years, she told the audience. They really didn't need anyone's permission to tell their story. So the applause was rousing, and I felt sorry for the poor soul who asked the question. Lucette would get variants of that Andre Assaman inquiry over the next several months. Canios had steeled her for it and framed her response. Then one day, the question simply stopped, and we knew she had arrived. In the meantime, there had been reviews and serializations, bestseller lists, speeches in universities and museums, readings in libraries and synagogues, appearances in Geneva, in London and Cairo, a literary award in Jerusalem's King David Hotel. But what Lucette never forgot, never, was this. Canios came first. Canios paved the way. Canios made everything possible that was yet to come. So it must have been for countless others. After 40 years, one can only imagine how many similar blessings were conferred on how many fortunate and countless writers at Canios. But I can only speak for Lucette. And in her memory and on her behalf, I would offer a simple toast to Kathryn and Maryann. You go, girlfriends. There is one final postscript I'd like to add, and that is, as we left the shop after that reading in 2007 and walked out to Main Street, I looked back and I noticed a pane of glass at transom level on the adjoining blue door that leads to the residential portion of the Canios building. It bore the address 290. Lucette had been right. It was a good luck number after all.
Doug, thank you so much. It's so moving, and we're full of emotion and warm, fond memories of dear Lucette.
I know you are.
Thanks so
Maryann.
much.
Thanks.
That was so beautiful.
I know you are. I have tears in my eyes. Thank you. I just want to, if you'll indulge me for one more second. Kathryn took 1 million pictures one day in 2007. One ended up on the jacket of the book. This is my favorite, arguably, because there she is in the Nelson Algren chair, otherwise known as the Lucette Lanyadoo chair, unofficially. Thank you.
The divine Lucette lives on. We are so moved by your being with us tonight and your words and meeting both you and Lucette. And we wish you well with your project to carry her work forward. And we continue to recommend these books. I should make a bibliography of all the books that were mentioned tonight. These are extraordinary memoirs, paradigms of the genre, and we keep her memory alive. So thank you for being with us tonight.
Bravo. Thank you both. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Doug. Really, from the bottom of my heart. Lucette is a bright and shining star, and she is right now with us. She's in the room with us right now. You're both such special people, and we so appreciate all the hours that we've spent in conversation over many a topic these many years.
Thank you. It's very mutual. I agree. She's on the Zoom call with us now.
She is. I think I hear her squeaking in the chair behind Maryann, you know, that's that Nelson Algren chair. And yeah, I think it's time. I think it is a Lucette Lanyadoo chair. Let's, you know, I think this day forward.
We're going to rename it. We're renaming it right now.
We're in the 21st century. That's what it deserves. So
she'd be forever grateful.
And we're forever grateful for her friendship and yours. So at this moment, what we're going to do is show you just about 100 or 500 slides of images over the last.
Our last vacation.
No, I'm going to share the screen and show you what we have put together. I have to apologize, not everybody may be on this in here, but stay tuned because this is just round one and more will be put together. But please just enjoy this sampling throughout the years at the bookstore. For those who don't know Alan and heard us speak of him, here he be. Oops. Sorry, Mary, didn't want to zip over you. Colson's daughter is now a teen. We had an event where we lost power, but we kept going. That's the Nelson Algren in the back for those of you who haven't seen it, the Nelson Algren chair. You never know who you'll find in the stacks. Sorry, my computer is acting up. So just a little technical difficulty here.
So meanwhile, while Kathryn's working on that, I want to just jump in and mention one of the highlights for me during our time here was the chance to publish this book about Sag Harbor. Kathryn and I put together a collection of works by the village. It's called Sag Harbor Is, a literary collection, a literary celebration, and it includes Kathryn's photographs about the village. And we had the honor to do this book thanks to our dear friend, the late James Monaco, who is was the publisher of Hampton Electronic Publishers. So this book, Sag Harbor is one of many in a long list of books published by James Monaco, books about the East End, culture and nature, trail guides, village histories, and we're very grateful for that experience. So tonight we're certainly remembering our friend Jim, and I think Susan, his wife, is with us on the call. So thank you guys. Late Stephen Cohen.
Yeah, that was the old podium there you see that Bill King decided we needed to change.
We're hoping to put together a small chapbook, including some of the anecdotes. Our good friend, the poet Robert Long, the late Robert Long, a collection of the anecdotes that we've received, along with some of these photographs of events at the store. So look forward to that in 2021.
And here we have Lucette with the wonderful poet Ann Porter, Fairfield Porter's wife. The great publisher George Braziller. Harris Yulin read the sermon last year at the reading, or at the last reading. And we reenacted the Sailor's play, directed by Bill Burford.
That's my dad calling in on the phone, so I've muted you, Kathryn. Okay, so should we move ahead then? We're going, I guess you're frozen there a moment. We're going to move ahead. We have some other short pieces to share. And again, this is really informal, so folks can move around and stretch your legs anytime you need to. And we so appreciate being together, and reading some of your greetings in the chat is very much appreciated. Kathryn, shall we bring up the video? David?
I'm trying to, yeah, there we go. Okay. Just had a little trouble with my computer not cooperating, but let us now bring up a video, wonderful video from our good friend David Bouchier. Let me try to make it full on the screen here.
Many of you will have heard David Bouchier on National Public Radio, commentator, essayist, and he also has a wonderful classical music program. We've had a number of fantastic events of David reading from his essays here at the bookshop, and it's always been enjoyable and illuminating in many ways. This is just one of his books that we have here for sale. He has essay collections and a memoir, and we've been, again, it's been one of our delights to meet some of our favorite writers, and lucky for us, David lives right up island, as we say, in Setauket, and has been gracious enough to come to the bookshop as a speaker. And also the fantastic video you're about to hear is from some reflections on a day he spent as an honorary staff person here at Canio's.
Yes, which he wrote about in the New York Times several years ago. And he joined our call earlier. I think he may have had to step off to another Zoom. But here's David Bouchier.
Hello, I'm David Bouchier, and I can tell you that running a bookstore for 40 years is a rare and impressive achievement. I tried it myself in London in the 1970s with a small store that lasted only a fraction of that time because I had the habit of buying far more books than I could ever sell. So I've always loved small bookstores and admired anyone who had the self-discipline to keep one going, as Kathryn and Maryann have with Canio's. I discovered Canio's almost by accident because I wasn't a Sag Harbor resident. I had published a small book of essays and was looking for ways to promote it. Maryann and Kathryn, bless them, responded with an invitation to give a reading. And one fine day, I found myself outside that familiar blue and white facade, wondering how an audience could possibly be squeezed into such a small space. But they did squeeze, and that was the first of several invitations and enjoyable visits. Always a warm welcome, always a responsive audience. A few years later, Kathryn and Maryann were good enough to indulge one of my little fantasies, which was to become a bookseller again for just a few hours. I suppose I was in search of my lost youth, and in a way I found it. Local bookstores are rare these days, and it was like falling into a personal time warp. My first job as temporary junior unpaid bookseller was to shelve some new books that had just arrived. This immediately reminded me that the most precious commodity in a small bookstore is shelf space. It's like parking in New York. You have to be ruthless and quick to find a spot for each new title on the crowded shelves before somebody else fills it. The other great challenge is classification. Librarians have their Dewey Decimal System, but booksellers have only their intuition. A bookstore is really a physical model of the inside of the bookseller's head. Nothing is obvious, nothing should be obvious. Browsing is a voyage of discovery. Searching is an act of faith. After a few hours in Canio's, shelving new books and reimagining each section according to my own mental geography, I felt as if I'd never done anything else. The body remembers long after the mind forgets. The dust tingled in my sinuses, my feet ached, and my back ached, just like in the old days. I was also reminded that bookselling is the best possible training in humility. You're surrounded by hundreds of books that you've never read and trying to answer impossible questions from customers on every subject under the sun, from fly fishing to physics. This reveals the full extent of one's own ignorance. At the end of the day, I felt both tired and humbled. It was like being young again. Happy 40th anniversary, many congratulations, Maryann and Kathryn. Long may Canio's continued.
Thank you, David. It is indeed a humbling experience. I can attest to that for sure. So listen, we thank everybody for their contributions this evening. We have a few minutes left, even though we've gone over. If there's anybody in the room who wants to make some comments, you're welcome to do so. But I'd like to just start by first of all thanking you all. I mean, we would absolutely not be here all these years without the love and the support of every person who is on the Zoom with us tonight, and plus many, many others sort of standing or sitting behind you reading good books over these last 40 years. So thanks everybody for being here tonight.
Kathryn?
Just the beginning of our celebration.
I'd like to say something.
Please do.
I brought a guest. This is my friend and former colleague at Time, Anna Monardo. She brought me to Canio's for the first time when she did a reading of her first novel called Courtyard of Dreams. And that's how I got to know Canio's. And I'm still in touch with Anna. I encouraged her to send in a memory to you all, but I don't know if she did or not. She teaches writing at the University of Nebraska now.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you. And she hasn't yet, but listen, there's time for each and every one of you if you haven't yet to send in a memory. And just a shout out to Sue, who is on our Moby Dick Marathon Planning Committee. We'll be in touch very soon to plan for 2020.
Good.
You got that. Anybody else?
Yes.
Please, Maggie.
Well, I mostly want to say that this is so wonderful and happy 40th birthday. And I have many happy memories from being in Canio's, reading, launching my own book. But most importantly, the Christmas concerts with my husband, Mike Gary, and Steve Shaughnessy, which are all the jazz concert. I hope somehow there'll be one this year, wherever we are. And I cannot thank the two of you enough for keeping this wonderful, wonderful venue going. Thanks.
Thank you, Maggie. And we so love our jazz concerts with your husband, Mike Gary, on guitar and Steve Shaughnessy on bass. It's a highlight for us. We look forward to the day we can welcome everyone back for that. Thank you for bringing that forward.
Yeah, and they bring in our Christmas season. So, well, maybe we'll do something on Zoom with them. Thank you, Maggie.
Oh, hi, Bruce Milne here. And I just wanted to say, Canio, amore, molto grazie. I was a, typical singer-songwriter, still, spending most of my time in the closet. And you gave me an opportunity, our first opportunity really to perform in public in many years at that time. There was I think 1982. And I performed several times with Phil Noble and Eugenia Humphreys. And it encouraged me, it really did. And it was actually at Canio's that I met Tom Clavin, who I'm sure, you have his books represented there in the store.
Absolutely.
And he was then, I think he was a writing or an editor or something for one of the local newspapers. And he came up to me and he said, I have this idea. I think we could do an event, with get the local musicians to come. And it was his brainchild, what was that to be called, the East End Music Festival, which occurred for I think about 6 years in a row at Guildhall. And local musicians would come, and the whole community would come out. It was really incredible. And so everyone would play too long, and the children would be falling asleep. It would be 3 hours later, and everybody wanted to go home. But it all started where?
That's
so
great.
Thank you. Thank you so
290 Main Street.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
great.
Thank you, Bruce. Hey, and I want to thank Baron for popping into the chat. You know, we do have an online presence right now for those of you who aren't local and need to get your book. Bookshop.org/shop/Canio's books will allow you to get books right to your doorstep. Bookshop.org is an amazing group of angels that arose during the pandemic to help support local indie bookstores throughout the country. So thank you, Baron, for putting that in there.
Kathryn?
Yes.
Yes,
Kathryn?
Rob. Yes.
I'd like to say thank you to Canio. Among other things, with all the readings that I did there with friends, he brought out my book of poems called Similar to Fire, 1992, and that's thanks to Canio. So thanks, and I'm happy to be a part of this celebration.
Thank you, Rob. It's so good to see you. And yes, Rob's book is one of the list I had mentioned, Canio's editions. Just beautiful celebration of East End poets. So thank you for bringing that forward, and so good to see you. It's been a while.
Though I just saw Rob the other day in the store. It was good to see you. Yeah, we are open. People can come in, just in case you're wondering. Masks, of course, are a necessity, and we have a 3-person maximum, but we welcome everyone to come and say hello anytime they're in Sag Harbor. So.
Can I speak?
Please.
Oh, am I on?
Jump in. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm calling you from Santa Fe, New Mexico. So it's just fantastic to see everybody back in Sag Harbor. And Canio, hello. I want to remind you of that incredible show in 1988 that I did with Babatunde Olatunji, the Nigerian drummer. And see if you remember that, and all the people hanging out on the pavement because there wasn't enough room for everybody. And I managed to find the recording of that show just yesterday. And I realized that in all the years I had in Sag Harbor, which is over 30, Canio, you were a tremendous support to me. You gave me so many opportunities to do my insane shows with various other residents of Sag Harbor, like Richard Ensor and a wonderful musician called Blake Hansen, who sang a song called There Are No Flies on Me, as I recall. And so I just wanted to thank you for that. And I plan to do the same over here in Santa Fe. Come and do a Canios in Santa Fe. Thank you for everybody. Bye.
Oh, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Kenny.
Great to see you. I'm sorry we couldn't squeeze in your video, but next time. And we wish you well in Santa Fe. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. The altitude's a bit much for me, but thank you for joining in tonight. We appreciate that.
Oh, I miss Sag Harbor like anything, really.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Kenny. Come and
you.
visit. And just hearing about that event reminds me of probably the two, in the last 20 years, the two most attended events would be Amy Goodman's From Democracy Now! Talk in the early 200s. And then, of course, just recently, Colson Whitehead's 200+ person event at the Unitarian congregation, Unitarians where we were. That was a really awesome event. So if anyone else would like to speak, you can either raise your hand with the icon or in the screens. And if not, we can move forward.
Well, if we're coming to a close, we can unmute everybody and just give a general loud shout out. And we wish you a safe and delicious Thanksgiving. And we hope to see you all very soon at the bookshop. Any last comments before we blow it all open? Mary, there's still some ouzo left, okay?
Okay.
I'm saving this much for you.
Oh, I'll bring another bottle. Go ahead. Drink it.
No, listen, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your, your creative thoughts and your offerings. And we hope for a very creative season ahead for everybody. We look forward to being together, and stay tuned for our next celebration. This is just, really the kickoff. So let's unmute everybody and give us all a round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Maryann, we love you.
I think with everybody being here from New Mexico, that the next time we open a store, Maryann, what do you think? New Mexico?
Yes. And I know the very place.
Yeah, okay, we're getting a lot of thumbs up on that. Okay.
You need drugs to survive at that altitude. So
A long ways to know.
Albuquerque. It's kind of not that high. We could make it work.
It's great. The air is fresh. You feel good. It's good.
No, it's a beautiful place. We had a wonderful event with Natalie Goldberg. Speaking of Santa Fe, she was at the bookshop several times. Standing room only, and we got to visit her when we did make one memorable trip to the beautiful Santa Fe. So, anyway, yeah. So
hey, but listen. Should we give a shout out for our next event, which is the wonderful poets Grace Schulman and Jill Bielowski, which is coming up. The date is December
10th. It is Emily Dickinson's birthday. So that'll be a triple poetry celebration. Some other events to look forward to. We're coordinating with some small literary presses. We're going to be doing a joint event with Four Ways Books in February or March, and also with Coven Carey, a small literary publishing house out of New Jersey. We will be under a new president, folks, and we will have a woman vice president, all right? So look forward to this. We are going to really pop the champagne January 20th, wherever.
Yes.
We have things to celebrate. We have a hard road to get there, but we have things to celebrate coming soon. So we're really looking forward to all of that. Also, we have a special event with our friend in Paris, France, Craig Carlson, who operates a pancake house, a pancake breakfast diner in Paris. So he'll be joining us from Paris also in the new year. So his new book is called Let Them Eat Pancakes.
That's super.
Absolutely delightful. So, check our website, and if you're not on our e-list, get on there. And great to see family. Thank you, Baron, for the shout out for bookshop.org. It's a great new nonprofit supporting independent bookshops, and we're part of that. So if you don't live nearby, take advantage of that.
Okay, so listen, as we roll out, I would just like to apologize for whatever technical difficulties happened with the slideshow, but I'm going to share the screen again and just continue the slideshow. You can just keep talking and everything, but you can, see that as you're talking, okay? So.
1 second. Hang on, I'm going to take us off then.
Leave us over there.
What?
Leave.
Oh, look, there's Tony Ernst. You know Tony Ernst.